About 500,000 people from around the world travel to Spain each year to trek the historic Camino de Santiago, a pilgrimage route that stretches for hundreds of miles. The journey is emotional, it's physically taxing, it's enlightening, and people do this walk for a million different reasons. But what they all have in common at the end is that their lives are forever changed by the journey. Today, one of our writers, Catherine Driver, joins me to describe her experiences along the Camino de Santiago. She talks about how to prepare mentally and physically, some very important etiquette you need to know before you go, and all the other imperative factors to consider when planning your walk. So, whether the Camino de Santiago has been on your travel bucket list forever, or you're just hearing about it for the first time today, I promise you this episode will inspire you to make the pilgrimage of a lifetime. Here's a 30-second teaser of our discussion.
Along the Camino Francés, one of the wineries has a wine fountain that you can stop and fill up your water bottle. Many albergues, they have communal meals. Your host will either cook or everybody who is staying there will cook together and eat together. You'll see painted yellow arrows, which point you in the direction to go. You can't really get lost if you follow them. We always say it's your Camino. You do as much as you want per day. I think whether you're looking for it or not, it's going to change your life in some way. Could be small, could be big, but something will happen.
Hi there, and welcome to the Travel Lemming podcast, where we discuss the world's greatest travel destinations and experiences so you, as listeners, can get started on planning the trip you've always dreamed of. I'm your host, Betty Hurd. I'm a senior travel writer and podcaster here at Travel Lemming. I'm also a full-time flight attendant based in Los Angeles, where I am right now. My guest was very recently on the show talking about Istanbul, Turkey, with our founder and my co-host, Nate. One of my favorite episodes, so definitely give it a listen after our discussion today if you're interested in visiting Istanbul. Before I introduce her, pause this episode, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel, give us a 5-star rating. We so appreciate our listeners taking the time to do that, and we love getting your feedback on the show. Now, welcome our Camino expert, Catherine Driver.
Hi, Betty. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I wish I was on the Camino, but I'm in sunny Vancouver. So when the sun is shining, it's great.
Not a bad alternative.
No.
Not too shabby. So good to have you here. And I'm especially thrilled to discuss the Camino with you because my mom and I have been talking about doing this for the past, 3 years. And it's always been discussed with this kind of wishy-washy connotation of one day we'll do it, when we do this and that. And, I just have a feeling that this episode's going to give us the kick that we need to actually plan the trip and just go for it. So, which is our hope for listeners as well.
I hope so too, because if you're you sound like you're like me, kind of wishy-washy about it for a while. And then I just decided to do it. And it was one of the best things I've ever done. So I really encourage anyone who's listening and you and your mom to just go and do it.
To just do it. Absolutely. And I'm so excited to discuss this with you today. Kat has written multiple pieces on her experiences with the Camino on travellemming.com, as well as dozens of guides about her home in Vancouver, where she is right now. So give those a look after the show on our website, travellemming.com. If British Columbia is also on your travel radar, which it should be because it's awesome. So Kat, what is the Camino de Santiago and what makes you our expert on the topic today?
The Camino de Santiago is a medieval pilgrimage to the relics of St. James at the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela in Galicia, Spain. It's said to have been started in the 9th century. The Camino Primitivo, which is a route that I've walked, is said to be the first one. But the Camino de Santiago is a number of different routes. You can walk several through Spain. There's a few in Portugal, and the big one, the most popular one, starts in France.
I didn't know that. For me, all I ever associate it with is Spain. So I forget that there's, it goes through different countries.
Yeah, the bulk of them are in Spain, the bulk of the different routes. I think probably for today's purposes, we could focus on the Camino Francés, which is the most popular of the routes. So I think that's the one that most people gravitate towards as their first Camino. So when we talk about the Camino de Santiago, that's what I'll mean. But the whole network of routes is really steeped in history. It's got the most fascinating and beautiful history because it's Spain. Spain goes back so many centuries, but along the way, you'll see castles and churches and cathedrals and lots of little wonderful churches and monasteries. So it's always had kind of a Christian focus, but today it's walked by people of all faiths, people of no faith. And it's seen today as a metaphor for life. So people tend to find a lot of strength and wisdom and renewal on that route. So that's the Camino in a nutshell.
I love that. So you've kind of gone over the historical significance of it. What's like the cultural significance? Like, why has this become such a massive thing around the world?
I think my first Camino was the Francés, and I walked that in 2017, along with 320, about 300,000 others. Last year, 500,000 walked. And I think the real shift came during COVID. People were really looking for a travel experience, and it would be outdoors for the most part, except when you're sleeping. So that was really great in the sort of post-COVID calm down, like just restarting travel that way. But I think just in our hectic world, it's such a beautiful escape, and life really does feel different. You even come back with, you bring the Camino back with you as well, which I think we all need in this world we're living in today. So I think
I
that's really
agree.
what, yeah, I think that's really what's been the big appeal of it. And even in, not even 10 years, it's grown exponentially.
Yeah, I mean, you said 500,000 people did it
Yeah.
this year or this
That
last
was
year.
2024 numbers.
Oh my gosh. It's a massive number. I had no idea it was that many people. And so when you're walking, are there any days where you don't see a ton of people, or are you almost always kind of in a pack the whole way?
Well, again, it depends on the route you do. So in last year, I walked the Camino Primitivo, and that was a really beautiful mix of people and solitude. So I was able to walk by myself a lot, but kind of at the end of the day, there were always people around, and you sort of passed each other as you went along. The Camino Francés, and every year the Portuguese as well, the Portuguese Camino route, that's growing a lot too. The Camino Francés, if you want alone time, you pretty much have to ask for it, like, because you will be kind of with a, even if you go by yourself, which I did, you still will encounter a lot of people along the way.
Just meet tons of people every
Yeah.
single day,
So
I'm sure.
if you're looking for that, which is with something I think is wonderful about the Camino, like I loved that about the first one that I did, because I was never really alone, and I was a little bit intimidated at first because you're walking across the country. It's a little bit daunting. So I
Mhm.
loved being there and meeting so many people. On my Primitivo, I was looking a little bit more for some solitude, which I was able to get. It was a really beautiful balance. But then there are other routes, like, for example, the Via de la Plata, which is not going to see as many people.
Yeah.
So if you're really looking to be by yourself, you can choose a lesser known or a lesser walked route.
Gotcha. We'll get into you kind of painting a picture of those routes in just a moment. But I love that you can kind of go for that sense of community if you want to be in a big group and meet a whole bunch of new people, or you can go on like the self-reflection route, like you said you did last year, and kind of get that alone time. So it's nice. I mean, it seems like there's definitely a route for everybody on the Camino, as cliche as that sounds.
There really is. And I think whatever you're looking for, you can find it with a little bit of research to the different routes. And
That's awesome. So what inspired you to take this journey in the first place in 2017?
well, it was really funny. I studied art history in university, and we learned about the Cathedral of Santiago de Compostela, which is magnificent. And the museum is really amazing too. A perfect rainy day activity in Santiago. But I actually can't remember how I found out about the walk. I think about it and I'm like, I don't really remember when I first heard about the walk, but I knew I always knew about the cathedral. And I think sort of in 2017, like, life was just kind of, it was a bit of a hamster wheel. And I was getting just kind of tired of just the groundhog day that seemed to be every day, and working and getting caught up in the rat race of life. And I'm just like, you know what? It's time. So I took a leave of absence from work because I always wanted to walk the entire Camino Francés, which is 800 kilometers. And I can't do that in 3 weeks of annual leave from work. So I took a leave of absence and went and did that. And it was just, it was really life changing. It really shifted the trajectory of my life.
That's incredible. And you talk about the hamster wheel, and I feel like so many people, especially in America, I know you're in Vancouver, but I just know so many of my friends and family members who seem to describe their everyday life in that same way. And I feel like this is something that could benefit anybody and everybody, you know?
Absolutely. And you don't have to take a leave of absence from work. You can go and walk for 2 weeks. Do it in pieces, because, we don't have the luxury of a lot of time off in North America. And we also don't have the luxury of being nearby. So, there's nothing wrong with just taking 2 weeks and walking what you can, coming home, and then going the next year or a few years down the road, or choosing a shorter route that you can complete in 2 weeks.
I hope this episode inspires some people to, especially not necessarily just for doing the Camino de Santiago, but really any kind of worldly travel, I hope that this can kind of encourage people to go
Mhm.
ahead and take control of their lives and go do it. So to start, can you paint a picture of the route? Well, I guess you said there's multiple, but can you give us kind of an overview of some of those major, more popular ones?
Yeah, so I have not done the Camino Portuguese yet, which I'd really like to do because that's supposed to be quite stunning along the coast. But yeah, I'll share a bit of an overview about the Frances, which is the most popular. The route is wonderful, like you're traversing the entire country. So you're really going to get a diversity of landscapes and people and food and culture. So that one typically starts at the kind of unofficial starting point is Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in France. And from there, you cross over the Pyrenees Mountains. And so, yeah, you're just looking at stunning views and lots of cows and a lot of peace and quiet. And then Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port is in the Basque Country. So you'll continue on the Basque Country in Spain. So culturally, that's a very interesting part of Spain and France. So you'll get to experience that culture. The landscape is a lot of rolling hills and beautiful farmland. You'll get into Navarra, where your first big city is Pamplona, and that's absolutely magnificent. And from there, you walk through the wine region. So you're walking through wineries. There's even a free wine fountain. And then when you hit the part between Burgos and Leon, that's known as the Meseta, and it's very flat, which is really a lovely break for your body. A lot of people skip it, but I wouldn't encourage that. I think it's a really beautiful part of Spain. It's kind of like the prairies in Canada, just flat and a lot of fields, a lot of wheat. But again, a really nice place to just take care of your spiritual health. You don't have to really worry about climbing up and down hills. And then you'll get into Galicia, which is again a little bit more mountainous with a very lush as well with a Celtic culture. So a lot of different food and different customs. So yeah, you're really seeing a big diversity along the route. Some days are harder than others. Some days there are those mountains to climb up and down, which can be a bit tough on the body, but if I can do it, anyone can really do it. Yeah, it's quite diverse, which is what I love about it.
Yeah, so this is the Camino de Frances, right?
Yes, Camino Francés.
Camino Frances. Okay. And so with the other routes, do they all end in the same place in Santiago?
They do all end in Santiago. Yes, that is the meeting point. That's where all the routes culminate. Yeah. So, for example, I walked the Primitivo, and that one is really tough. That one is very very mountainous, but it towards the end it connects with the Camino Francés, and then you'll walk to Santiago from there. So they all kind of funnel in to the cathedral.
Okay. And so when I look at like a hiking app, they usually rate hikes easy, intermediate, expert. For the Camino Frances, how would you rate that route?
I would say that's probably a medium because it's not entirely flat. My
Right.
Camino Nova Scotia, on the other hand, was all flat. The route that I did, so that was very easy. But yeah, the Camino Frances, I would give it a medium. So some training would be helpful for that beforehand.
Gotcha. And we'll definitely get into preparation in just a moment. But I wanted to ask also, what was like the daily goal in terms of kilometers to hit? Like, is that a thing where people try to always hit a certain number of kilometers per day? Or is it really like do it at your own pace thing, take your time? Like, how does that usually work?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're coming from North America, we can be a bit pressed for time. So I found like between 20 and 25 kilometers per day would kind of have you on a really nice pace to sort of finish within your timeline. But again, you can do what you
Yeah.
want, and it's we always say it's your Camino. You do as much as you want per day. If you're not feeling it one day and you can only walk 5 kilometers, you can only walk 5 kilometers. Like, who cares? It's you stop where you have to. And the friend says, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, is set up very well that you have a lot of places to stop if you need to. The Primitivo, on the other hand, you could, there was one day where we had 25 kilometers with nothing. So there's not always the option to stop when you need to. But of course, there are buses and taxis. You can always just hop on if you're having a bit of a difficulty to your next stop. But there's really, like you'll see in the guidebooks and on the apps, that the Camino is laid out in different stages, but you don't have to follow that. And everybody's kind of following those stages. So you can often run into a lot of crowds on those, like the main points in the guidebooks and on the apps. So, but make it your own. You can make it your own.
How many hours a day on average do you think you'd say you walked?
Probably about 6 hours, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, every
Because in
day.
my brain, I was thinking, oh, are you walking from like sunrise to sunset, like a full 12, 13 hours?
Oh, no, no. Well, if you want to stop and linger, and sure, you could make it a 12-hour day. But like I find, like with consistent walking, stopping for lunch and after a couple of coffees, about 6 hours. Yeah.
Have a leisurely stroll.
A
I know when my
leisurely
mom
stroll.
talks about it, she's like, we could always hire someone to pick up all of our bags and they can bus us from place to place. I was like, Mom, that's like defeating the whole purpose. But,
Yeah. Yeah.
from what you said, you can do that if
You
if
can't
that's
do
the way
that.
you want to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. I mean, and I think more and more there are tour companies who are, they'll drop people off at, their start points and take their bags and arrange their accommodations. But you know what? Like a lot of people can say, well, you're not a real pilgrim if you do that. But I think, that's what's going to get you out there to enjoy it. You deserve that. You deserve that too. I think everyone deserves to be out there in whatever way is possible for them. Not everybody can walk with a big backpack for 25 kilometers. So, whatever, it's your Camino, whatever works for you, it works for you. It shouldn't be judged.
Well, I appreciate that inclusive outlook there. So, how did you prepare for this trip the first time you went? Like, what were the main things that you packed?
I found like just before my first, I was really nervous to do it, even though I really wanted to. I think I kind of, in a way, over prepared. I just grabbed like there's tons of great packing lists on Travel Lemming. I've made a packing list, but there were tons of great packing lists in my guidebook and online. So I just kind of checked off everything based on those lists and then kind of customized for anything small that I needed. And then I walk a lot at home. So I just kind of kept doing what I was doing. For people who don't walk often, you probably want to do some physical training, like go for some long walks at home. If you've got hills near your house, go, practice on the inclines. And then I also joined my local chapter of the Canadian Company of Pilgrims. And worldwide, there's one in the United States as well. You can find the national Camino groups and the local Camino groups. So if you have one near your house, those are always really, really helpful. They do training walks. They build a Camino community, and then you can pump all the experienced pilgrims. You can pump you for information, which is really helpful.
Wow. No, that's so cool that there's chapters all over.
Yeah. And I think when you do a Camino, what will happen to you is that's all you want to talk about. So people who walk the Camino really, really love sharing about their experience. We love like molding and preparing the new pilgrims for walking. So there's always that is such a wealth of information.
It's so true too. When you go and do a unique travel experience, I feel like all you want to do is talk about it. And sometimes when you talk to people who haven't done it, you don't get the response that you want. And it's almost like offensive when you're like, why aren't you as excited about me talking about this as I am? So it's nice. It's nice to know that, yeah, like you can come home and talk to people who have also done it. Like that's so cool. And it's kind of like you get to relive some of those memories with people who actually understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, it was so funny. A good friend of mine, she's a good friend of mine now. I met her in that group. She was preparing to walk. So like her and I connected and I told her everything. And she was texting me while she was on the route. She's like, oh my God, this is so hard. I'm going to kill you. You really downplay this. But then she comes back and like, that's all her and I talk about. So, and she's so excited to share her experience. So like, even though it's kind of hard at the time when you come back, it's like you look back and you're like, wow, that was amazing what I just did. So it's fun. It changes you.
I absolutely can see why it would. So with that, back to that packing list type of thing, which again, Kat has written an awesome Camino de Santiago packing list on Travel Lemming. So if you're planning your walk, definitely use that as your virtual checklist. But what are the top 3 essentials that someone might forget to bring on their walk?
Maybe some of the things that people would kind of forget about. 2 really important things are earplugs and an eye mask, because I'm sure we'll talk about the accommodations a little bit later, but the majority of the accommodation are shared. So they're dorm rooms, they're bunk beds, and some of them can be quite big. So sometimes you can be sleeping in a big room with 50 people. So with that comes it's a lot of noise, and people love to flick on the lights first thing in the morning. We're talking like 4 o'clock in the morning. I call them the early risers. And when they're packing up and they're the lights are on. And so you'll really want to pack earplugs and an eye mask. I think that's really essential to sort of keep your sanity in that kind of accommodation.
Yeah, especially because you're going to need good sleep during this.
You do. Yeah. It's physically, very, very challenging to walk so far every single day. So you do really want to be well rested. Another thing people might kind of leave without is what's called the Pilgrim Credential. And that's this little booklet here. And this here is basically it identifies you as a pilgrim, and it's where you collect the stamps that you'll need to get your Compostela at the end, your certificate. So
That's
this is
so
mine
cool.
from
She's showing it for those of you who are listening and not watching the visuals. She's showing, you unfold this booklet and it's just full of stamps. It's like an even cooler version of a passport.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful memento as well. It's really special.
That's awesome.
But some people can often forget that they'll need that, or maybe they don't know that they need something like that. So
where do you get it?
You can get that through your Canadian or American or British pilgrim group, like the Canadian Company of Pilgrims or the American Pilgrims on the Camino. You can also pick them up there at the pilgrims offices in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, or for example, the tourist office in Oviedo for the Primitivo. They have them as well. So, and then many churches and cathedrals will also have them. So if you forget that, you can pick it up there as well.
Okay. So you said, sorry, did you say it was required?
It is required. Yes. It's required to gain access to the accommodation because the
Gotcha.
pilgrim.
Very important.
Yeah. The pilgrim albergues they're all meant for pilgrims. So they're not to be used as a cheap holiday for budget travel.
Yeah. Cause I was wondering how they would determine who's who. So that makes sense.
Yeah. And then at the end to get I can show you my Compostela as well. So the Compostela is a certification that you've finished the route. So
it's beautiful.
Yeah. So in order to receive that, you'll need to show that credential as well. So it's a very, very important document that some might not know about or forget to pack.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very important. Thank you so much for touching
on that. And then,
of
course, like your backpack and shoes are essential. Like make sure you fit those properly, and then all your clothing and toiletries.
Yeah, of course. Again, check out that packing list on travellemming.com. So aside from the items that you could bring, how did you physically and mentally prepare for the Camino?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I walk a lot, so I found that to be adequate preparation. My first one I walked at 44 years old. My second one, I could definitely feel a few years difference. But again, like join a walking group. Like that always really helps, especially ones who do long distance walking. If you don't have every city will have some sort of walking group. It doesn't necessarily have to be Camino focused, but get out there and just kind of train in all weather, because sunny Spain is not always sunny. Like northern Spain, like on my last Camino, I got a ton of rain, which was so awful. But it's not always. Sometimes you're walking in a lot of heat or rain. So definitely try and get out in all different types of weather. That's a great way to prepare. If you have health concerns, talk to your doctor about it. Just make sure that you get the all clear, that you're okay to go as well.
Yeah, it's a smart tip.
But Spain has really great pharmacies and really great healthcare if you run into any issues at all, but just at all, it'd stop you. Mentally, I think the mistake I made when I went is I over prepared the first time. Like I was kind of, it's always fun to watch like YouTube videos and read forums, get people's opinions, but don't overdo it. I think I overdid it. And I think it just made me a little bit more worried because you're hearing, everybody has a different experience and everybody has different opinions. So I think that can really fill your head with a lot of noise. You will be fine. You'll find a place to sleep. You will meet lots of great people. You'll take your time on the terrain that seems too difficult and you'll get through it. So I think, mentally just, know what you're getting into, but don't overdo it those forums. Those forums can make you go crazy.
No, I like that. I like that tip. Just saying, you'll be fine, because you could listen to 50 different people give their experiences and all of them will give you little tidbits of the negatives. And then you kind of just start mentally, like subconsciously compiling those. And like you said, each experience is unique and you got to just do it.
Yeah. And just prepare yourself that it's not going to be perfect. Like,
right.
It's okay to cry on the Camino. It doesn't have to be, every day doesn't have to be like clear skies and no pain. And, some days you're just really tired, and it's okay to break down.
Sounds like
part
a
of it.
very metaphorical experience.
Absolutely. It
I
sure
love it.
is. Like it's kind of, it is real life in that kind of sense. Like it's, you do meet people you don't really connect with or like very much. You do have physical pain. You do have, emotional pain. Like a lot of people do this walk who are grieving. Either they're grieving job losses or losses of families, friends, spouses. It everybody there is a lot of people there are struggling with something. So it's not always just like this fun adventure. It is very much a metaphor for life, but just with it's just a little bit calmer. Yeah.
Absolutely. Can you describe a day in the life during your journey along the Camino de Santiago and give some personal examples?
Yeah. So my day, I'd usually wake up around on my Camino Francés. I usually got started walking around 6 or 6:30 in the morning because it was light out. My Primitivo was a little bit later in the year, so I started a bit later. But yeah, so I would start at about 6 a.m., 6:30 a.m., and I'd walk for a bit and then stop for my coffee. So usually walk about an hour and a half, and then stop for coffee and a breakfast, and then continue walking until lunch, stop for lunch, and then head to my albergue, which are what albergue is the pilgrim's hostel. So usually I'd arrive about 2, and from that point, it was just a nice time to kind of chill and meet up with my other pilgrims. Like we kind of talk about our route, if like how our day went, if we didn't see each other along the route. It was also a time like to do laundry. My bougie item on the Camino was getting my laundry done. So I would always get like the washer and dryer. I'm like, I just don't like hand washing my clothes, but you'll see a lot of people hand washing their clothes at the end of the day. But I usually pop mine in the washer and dryer about every 4 or 5 days. I do a big load and invite others. So I'm like, I'm doing a load of laundry. Give me what you have, right?
Oh, that's so nice of you.
Yeah.
Were those laundry facilities pretty accessible along the route?
Yeah, they are. Most of the albergues will have something. Many of them will. You just pay. It costs you about €7 to €9 to do a load of laundry. Yeah. And I really loved the afternoons because it was just a time to, sit down with everybody with a glass of wine. And then we'd usually go for dinner at around 7:30, which I think is actually early in Spain, but they're gracious enough to make it a bit earlier for the pilgrims.
Right, because people in Spain have dinner at like 9 p.m., right?
They do. I lived in Spain for a couple of years, and that's something I never got used to.
Really?
I'm hungry. I'm hangry at 5.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I want to
Yeah,
eat all day long.
yeah. And during that time too, in the afternoons, I'd like to go kind of sightsee around the town as well. Even though I just finished walking 25 km, I'm just gonna walk a few more steps and and go see the site. Yeah, and then dinners were always really, really wonderful. It was always kind of my favorite part of the day because many albergues, they have communal meals. So your host will either cook, or everybody who is staying there will cook together, and then we'll eat together. Or a bunch of us would go out for a pilgrim's menu. So that's like a 3-course dinner. So salad, a super salad, your main course, and then a dessert, always with a bottle of wine, which was the best part. And those you could get for about 12 to 15 euros. And that's a really fun part of the experience as well. By the end of it, you kind of don't want any more of them, but I
That's
think
super affordable though for a 3-course meal.
yeah, it's very like you get fed quite well. Like you will not go hungry on the Camino. So
You got to stay fueled.
you do. So yeah, I always looked forward to that, just going with a group of people to the nearest restaurant or stay in the albergue and eat. And that was always quite a special part of the day.
Yeah. And were the people running the albergues, were they usually locals, or were they also people were they like expats or people who had done the Camino before who started these?
Kind of all of that. I did a 2-week stint as we call them hospitaleros or hospitaleras. They are people who, some of them own the albergue. Some of them are local people who just work there. Others, like myself, I went for 2 weeks and volunteered at one. So I ran an albergue in Náfara, which is in La Rioja on the Camino Francés. So yeah, it's and then others, like some albergues are run by different countries. So, Holland, for example, and every 2 weeks, a different group of people will come and volunteer. So
That is so cool.
It's really
Never heard of anything like that.
no, it was a really wonderful experience, really hard work. And I think to be on the other side of that made me a better pilgrim.
Oh yeah, I'm sure with so many people coming in and out every single day. Did you encounter any hidden gems along your route that you'd like to share with us today?
My favorites were just the little churches along the way. Every small town has a few, and they're all extraordinary. If they're open, like always go in because they're absolutely magnificent. Like you pick this little small town, and then you walk into this church, and there's like this big gold altarpiece, quite extraordinary. So I think those are just wonderful little gems. And like some small town, and you always see signage, so you can kind of veer off the route and go and explore a little bit. But like some small towns have like just little Roman ruin sites and things like that. It's quite amazing what sort of has been unearthed along the route that you can go and see, or go and see a monastery that's off route. It's wonderful. I think it's not such a hidden gem, but along the Camino Francés, one of the wineries has a wine fountain that you can stop and fill up your water bottle
Yeah, no,
for
you
free.
mentioned that. I was
Yeah.
like, wine fountain? What
So
is a wine
yeah,
fountain?
it's not so hidden. Everybody knows about it, but it's definitely worth talking about. It's really fun. And I think too, just speak to the local people there, and they can tell you what's special in their town. I think one of the best thing about when I volunteered was spending 2 weeks in a small town and just being able to have the time to go and explore and discover things, like discover an amazing monastery and amazing churches. And where I was, they had these incredible little caves. And so I think just unfortunately on the Camino, you're kind of just passing through a lot of these places really quickly. But again, that's where it's good to research. You can just kind of pinpoint anything that you're really quite keen to see. But yeah, a lot of times, I've passed through some towns. I'm like, I really want to go back there and see that. And oh, I'm really sorry I don't have enough time today to go and explore that castle, for example. So I think the Camino Frances is one I would definitely like to do it again, sort of knowing what I know now. And there's no reason you can't. You can keep doing the same route 9 times if you want, and you'll discover a different thing every time.
Be a totally different journey every single time, I'm
Totally.
sure.
So yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you for sharing those little hidden gems with us. And can you share a few moments from your trip that made an impact on you?
I think for me, it was just the people that I met along the way had the biggest impact. Just meeting people from all over the world with so many different life experiences. I learned something from everybody that I met. So that was the most impactful for me. And like we're all still friends to this day.
I was going to ask if you still stay in touch with the people you walked with.
Yes, I do. And it's really cool because, in the years that have passed, we've met up with each other. If we're in London, for example, at the same time, we'll meet up with each other. There's always somewhere to go and stay. You go and stay with your Camino friend in Tucson or wherever. So yeah, I think it's such a unique and special and sometimes stressful experience that it really bonds people. So I think for me, it was the people that had the biggest impact on me. And then I think too, just the sort of when you're walking across the country every single day, the 20 kilometers, 25 kilometers, like it just shows you what you're capable of. So I think sort of the confidence that came from that is something that everybody can really relate to. Like it's a really special thing that it does have a lot of impact on your life. So I think that's another big thing. As for kind of little stories here and there along the way, I think that the kindness of the local people in some situations I've had, namely with bedbugs both times, I walked, just the kindness of the people who I have encountered, who have helped me deal with all my stuff and disinfecting me. I think that was something I'm so grateful for that. But it is something like you see the kindness of strangers who are willing to help when you're having a bad time, even if there's just somebody to give you like an ibuprofen if your back's really hurting or something. And along the way, like there's so many moments like that. You'll always like everybody will encounter moments like that where someone will just help you out when you need it, whether it's a listening ear or a band-aid. I think that is something that's really special. I think we tend to forget that in our real lives, that people actually help each other.
Yeah.
So
Well, and I feel like it's like that compilation of little things every day that kind of reinforces your faith in humanity. And it is easy to forget, and it's easy to lose that kind of powerful human connection in everyday life when you're just so go and regular workday life in the city.
yeah, and I think everybody has time to talk to each other because what else are we going to do? And sometimes it helps pass the day if you have a friend to talk to, and you can really learn so much where you have the luxury of that time to listen to people and share your own stories as well. It goes both ways. So
Well,
yeah.
on that note of sharing and
Mm.
communicating, did most people speak English on the route, or did you have to speak Spanish? And like, how did that work, meeting so many people from around the world?
Yeah, I went on my Camino Francés with just the basics, like the por favor, gracias, adios, hola. That was my extent of Spanish. So I found along that route, like the people who, like the workers, like had some English. Like I was able to get by fine between, their English and limited Spanish. So I think if you don't speak Spanish, that route is really comfortable. So yeah, the people I connected with too were all English speakers. So I did have a really fun day with a group of Spanish guys though. Like that was like we just kind of like hand signal and Google Translate, and that was it was pretty fun. Like so, if
It's a good learning experience.
it is, yeah. But you also like there's a lot of South Koreans who walk, so and a lot of them don't have any English or Spanish, and they're out there. So hats off to them because that's really tough. And then yeah, a lot of how Europeans are, they all speak like eight languages, right? So as English speakers, I think you will not have a problem. Like it's nothing to let that hold you back. But I noticed on my second Camino last year, after living in Spain for a couple of years, my grasp of Spanish is a little bit more advanced. And I found that on that route there wasn't as much English, but I was also able to connect with the local people a lot more. And that really changed my experience.
Wow.
I found that really enriching. Like I could actually talk to them and understand about their lives, and I found that really, really special for me.
That's awesome.
So Spanish is by no means mandatory. It's not something that should hold you back. But yeah, just also from my experience, it was really, really different having that language. And then some explanations at a historical site, for example, are not always written in English. Some little guided tours are always also not always in English. Like that can tend to only be Spanish. So that helps a lot too. But yeah, but a lack of Spanish shouldn't dissuade anybody.
And I know that there's quite a few really good translation apps out there, so probably a good idea to download one of those before you go just in case.
It'll help. When you have bed bugs, then you can explain yourself.
Oh my god. Did you have bed bugs like multiple times in one go?
No, but I have them on both of my
That's
Caminos.
horrible.
Oh my God. On my second one, I remember like I just started to like sort of feel a bit itchy, and I'm like,
Oh
oh no,
no.
here we go again. And I remember like I phoned my family that night. I was just in tears. I'm like, I can't believe this happened again.
I don't blame
Oh
you.
gosh. I mean, it's not a big deal. Like you wash your stuff, but I think it's
But they
just
can get into
they can get
everything, you
into
know?
everything. It's you don't know if you're carrying them from place to place. You don't know if you're bringing them home. And it just like, it takes like all night to just deal with it. So it kind of ruins your evening too. And oh gosh, but
Definitely need help from somebody else to
so yeah,
get you through that, I'm
the
sure.
having the Spanish really helped right?
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh my gosh, that's
Oh,
brutal.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you had some nice people to help you out through that.
Yes, I did. Very nice people.
So, where would you stay during the walk? You already mentioned the albergues, but if you could dive a little bit deeper into those accommodations, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, so the albergues are the most popular, and even those kind of have a level and a structure. So with the albergues, you can do like the municipal albergues, which are the one I volunteered in was a municipal albergue. It was €6 a night. So yeah, cheap and cheerful. We love that.
Super affordable.
Super
Love that.
affordable. Yeah, it was amazing. And then you can go to the private albergues as well, and they have a few more services. Like those might be the one where your hosts are going to cook for you. They more often than like most of those will have the laundry services, whereas the municipal might not. Yeah, they're just like a little bit of a step up in terms of comfort, and those will usually run about 15 to 17 euros a night. And then there are parochial, which are run by the church, and donativo, which you just pay what you can. So those are usually they're quite, the one donativo I did stay out, like we slept on mats on the floor, which sounds really uncomfortable, but I had one of my best sleeps there. So they're really really simple. So those are the albergues. Those will always be a shared dorm room. So, and shared shower facilities, sometimes unisex shower facilities, which I'm not always super comfortable in. But then you can also get private rooms. There's lots of private rooms available. When I first started walking in 2017, those were about 35 euros a night. But on my last Camino, they were 50 euros a night. So they've gone up. Like the Camino has gone up a little bit in price for sure over the years. But the private rooms are always nice. I usually like to get one about once a week. Sometimes you just need a break. You just want your own bathroom to wash your hair properly, and you don't want to hear any snoring. I mean, they're still fairly affordable, not like $400 a night, which brings me to the hotel. Like they have a hotel chain called the Paradors, and those are all luxury hotels that have been old historical buildings have been converted into these luxury hotels. And there are a few along the Camino Francés, and then there's a big one in Santiago de Compostela as well. But those, the Santiago de Compostela one's like $400 a night or something. Like they're really expensive. So
a little bit different from the €6 a night
different from
rate.
€6 a night, but slippers and a bathrobe, right? So yeah, so you can, whatever your comfort level is for accommodations, you can find that. Like it's not
in your budget.
Yeah. I actually find it quite helpful to reserve in advance now because of the volume of people that are on the Camino. So what I would usually do is just, pick the place that I'm going to end at, and then just call an albergue in the morning and just be like, can I have a bed, please? And they'll take my name. A lot of them are on booking.com now, which I was surprised about. Like along the Camino Primitivo, most of them are on booking.com.
It's very convenient.
You don't have to worry about a phone call in Spanish. But I think for the busier routes, if you just, I know it's not very spontaneous, but for me, I just like my peace of mind while I'm walking, and I know I'm going to have a place to sleep. So again, it depends on your comfort level with that. So
right.
Yeah.
And especially if there are a ton of people, like you said, like, did you ever show up somewhere and they were like, we don't have any room for you?
No, I don't think that's ever happened to me.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. But I had a friend on the Francés, and that guy would take his time. And he would roll into town at like 7 p.m. And he was like always the last one into town. Quite often he'd get like a really great room because they'd be like, we have no room in the dorms, but we have this attic with a king size bed that you can right? So he often
like work out in his favor.
Yeah, he often scored some really great room rolling.
That's hilarious.
Down late, so.
That sounds like me. I'm always the last person to show up to everything. But then I feel like I sometimes just get really lucky with like, whatever's left is left, and it ends up being a great time. So
I know. But again, like the people there are so helpful. Like if you roll in and there's nothing, they'll be like, well, let me call this place for you. And you hear stories about that all the time. So
that's really sweet.
I worry about it because I think that's just kind of my personality, but there's really nothing to worry about. Like you will find a way to sleep somewhere.
Did anybody camp?
Some people camping, I think, is a little bit funny there because different regions have different rules around that. So I mean, I wouldn't recommend just taking your tent without heavily researching the rules and regulations around camping. I don't think it's impossible, but I wouldn't be like, oh, bring a tent, and the authorities might not like that. So
maybe certain routes are more camping friendly.
So it's just
because I know so many budget travelers, totally would love to opt for camping if they can. Of course,
yeah. So I'd say just if that's something that you're keen to do, just make sure you research the regional regulations around that. And you walk through many different regions, so you have to do a fair bit of research just to see what they will and won't allow.
Yeah. Well, we've touched on this a couple of times already when we've discussed the cost of things, but can you tell us how much the Camino costs for, let's say, a month? Well, actually, how long did it take you again for your first one?
My first one took 37 days.
Okay, so a little over a month.
Yeah.
So maybe just to average it out and say 1 month of travel on the Camino, how much would that cost somebody?
I would say, like, again, it could be from dirt cheap to sky's the limit, but I'd say for me, like, sort of a healthy budget was around, like, I'd say 45 euros a day. So, and again, the costs are going up on the Camino, but I would say like my accommodation would be about 15 euros, and then food. And then you want to kind of budget for any, like if you have to go buy a cough medicine or something, that just kind of gives you a bit of a budget for if you need if you're really desperate for a private room or want to do a laundry. Like that's a safe budget. You're not going to spend that every day, but because like
it's a nice average.
Yeah, because like a dinner would be maybe about 15 euros, and then like little coffees and routes
Okay.
and things like that.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you're really, really on a budget, I bet you could do it for under $1,000 USD in a month. But
Oh, for sure, I
wanna go
think. Yeah.
yeah, go the other way around. You could also spend as much as you want if you've been saving up and you wanna go a little bit more the luxurious route.
If you want to whip it up in the Paradors, which I hope to do one day.
Yeah, that sounds honestly great.
I love these places. If nothing else, go for a glass of wine in them because they're absolutely just they're stunning. But yeah, it could be really whatever you want it to be. But
Well, good. That's good to know that this journey could fit a wide range of budgets.
absolutely. Yeah.
I wanna talk about safety now. Did you feel safe on the Camino? Which I know before you mentioned that you did,
Yeah.
but how would you characterize safety during the walk?
Yeah, I think and again sort of and I could see this on the two different routes that I did. Like I the level of safety, the way I felt was a little bit different on both. So the Camino Francés, I had absolutely no issue. There were people around me all the time. And the routes are very well waymarked. Like you'll see painted yellow arrows, which point you in the direction to go. You'll also see the shell. I'll show you. And for those who are listening and not watching, I just have my pilgrim shell that I hang on my backpack. But
Beautiful.
the shell is a symbol of the Camino. So you will also see way markers with shells. And they're all over the route. Like you can't really get lost if you follow them. So on the Camino Frances, I never felt turned around or unsafe because there were so many people around me all the time. On the Camino Primitivo, there weren't as many pilgrims, and the way markers do need a little TLC. Some of them are kind of not always could be hidden behind some bush. They're not as well taken care of. And on that route, I found that it was during the forest walking for me that I felt the most kind of unnerved. I remember one day it was so gloomy. It was on my really bad day of rain, and it was so gloomy through this forest, and like I didn't know where anyone was behind me or ahead of me, and I was just feeling a little bit nervous and during a couple of spots because I just like nobody had passed me for a while and I hadn't passed anybody for a while. So I kind of felt a little bit more alone on that route. But again, kind of keep your wits about you in those situations and just exercise common sense. Don't be afraid to stop if you feel a little bit nervous and just wait for somebody to come. Locals too are also really helpful. I remember one day on the Primitivo, I was just really enjoying my day. It was sunny and I was walking along and a gentleman pulled up next to me in a car and I was like, oh God. And he's like, Peregrina. And he like points back because I had missed the way markers and I was completely off route. So Senor rescued me. Bless him. But so like
Oh, how
the
sweet.
locals do look out for you. And I think that's really nice as well. But again, if safety is something that makes you nervous, especially as a solo female going, go do the Frances or the Portuguese, like do one of the more popular routes and you're not going to have any issue on that. And I know lately I've been seeing on some of the Facebook pages about thefts in albergues. So I think with it becoming more popular now, it's starting to, maybe attract people who are not always there for the right reasons. So what I usually do is just sleep. Like I don't take any valuables and I just sleep with my money like inside my sleeping bag and I take it into the showers in a plastic bag as well, just to be safe because I think, as it gets more popular, more and more, you're hearing more and more stories like that. So
Yeah, maybe bring some luggage locks.
yeah, and we're really prone on the Camino, I think, to letting our guard down. Like you sort of feel like everyone's there like you, and that's not always the case. So I think just to be mindful of your belongings and just keep an eye on your money and stuff. And that's I think a good safety tip these days.
When it comes to the navigation, like you were saying, you missed that one marker. Are there apps? Like, is there an app where you can keep track of the route? So if you do get off, you can kind of find your way back again?
Yeah, there are several apps. I know one. I don't really use them because I'm not super techie. And I also kind of just want to get away from that stuff on the Camino. So in that case, I have to be rescued by locals. But I know in my chapter group here, my Camino group, they're quite fond of maps.me. Like that's a good map that they always recommend for the routes. But there's a few of them that you can just download. There's a lot of
Yeah.
them. You can just download that. And I know some friends on the Primitivo used that. And that also kind of rescued us once or twice. But yeah, there are.
No, it's good to just know that that's an
Yeah,
option.
yeah, yeah. And then Also, the local people know that area like the back of their hands. They can always, you can always stop and ask someone.
It's so nice to hear that they're inviting and kind to the people on the Camino because, I feel like a lot of places that draw tourists, the locals don't always love that and they don't always welcome the tourists. So it's very nice to hear that, they're looking out for you.
They are. I think what I noticed on the Camino Primitivo when I did it last, in the years that it's grown so much, I think that sentiment is starting to bubble to the surface with the local people. And I actually can't blame them. I remember walking into Santiago and there was some very colorful graffiti telling us to go home. So or a few swear words there. It was in English. And I think these small towns are just, I mean, while it's their lifeline, it's many pilgrims don't always behave well. And
Yeah,
I
there's
feel
always that
so,
small group of people who
yeah,
give everybody else the bad rap.
absolutely. But I think on the Camino, you really do get what you give. And especially noticed that while working as a hospitalera and volunteering there, like I learned how to sort of be with the local people there a lot better. Because it's hard work. It's really, really hard work. And you have like thousands of transient people coming in every single day and, not always behaving well. and
I'm sure.
and
Yeah. I'm
yeah,
I'm sure it's a real
and
mixed bag.
totally. So, but I think in Santiago de Compostela, especially the sentiment is growing, like in many parts of the popular places in Spain that have had some issues with that because they've got their little old town and it's all tourist shops and it's again thousands of people coming in every single day and the local people are being run out of town. So
I can see how that could raise issues with the locals, which is a whole different topic, of
that's a
course.
whole
But
different story.
yeah.
But yes, but they do, on the whole, they do really look out for the pilgrims.
Yeah. Well, thank you for touching on those safety notes. When is the best time of year to travel on the Camino de Santiago? I know you said you did your two at different times, right?
I did my two at different times and I volunteered at a different time. So I did my Camino Francés in May, June, which was lovely. It started out a little bit chilly because we are traversing the Pyrenees. So, of course, in those mountain climates, it can be a little bit colder, but we had beautiful weather for that. I only had one really bad day of rain in 37. So, but my friend also did it in May, June and had a ton of rain. So, but I think for the crowds are a little bit less on those shoulder seasons. So that's nice as well for that. I did my Primitivo at the end of September and I had a lot of rain. So it started out really beautifully, but then ended with some really spectacular downpours. But it was still warm, which was nice. And then summer I volunteered during the summer and it was just scorching. I'm like, I do not know how anybody is walking. So I would say like the May, June and the September, October is, although it's kind of a bit of a crapshoot whether or not you'll get rain. It is a nice, like the temperatures are nice. So it's good for walking. And then I also found like one of the things I found volunteering during the summer was the language barriers because many Europeans walk during that time. And I found as an English speaker with my not the best Spanish in the world. I found it a little bit isolating. So I think if you're an English speaker, go at the times where other English speakers will be walking, which are those shoulder seasons, just to feel a little bit more connected to people because you won't have the language barriers. That's yeah. And winter, you can go in the winter too if you'd like. Hats off to those folks who walk in the winter. But you will find a lot of the services are closed, so that requires a little bit more planning.
And you did also talk about this, but how much time should somebody, in your opinion, what's like the minimum amount of time someone should take on the Camino?
I'd say if you can, like 2 weeks is really nice because 1 week will just fly. But 2 weeks will be, 2 weeks is nice because it doesn't feel like you got, oh my gosh, I have 3 more weeks out of me. Like it's a really nice time to get a taste of it and really get you can get a rich experience in 2 weeks. I mean, if you can do the whole Camino Frances, if you have 5 weeks, I think it's like that's ideal, but we don't all have that. So I think 2 weeks is really nice, or 10 days even.
Yeah. So you doing the Camino Frances start to finish was 5 weeks,
Yeah.
37 days,
Yeah.
right? And then when you did the Camino Primitivo, that was just 2 weeks, right?
It was just, it was about 13 days.
And was that also from the start of that route
Yes.
to the end?
Yeah. So that's,
find a wide range of times for those.
Sure. And the next one I'd like to do is the Camino Inglés, and that's 5 days. But
Really? Okay.
That's short
Very
and
cool.
sweet. So So yeah, there are plenty of options for those who don't have 6 weeks off.
So many, like you were saying earlier, there's so many people, especially in North America, who can't necessarily just take off months at a time.
No.
So if all you have is 2 weeks, even
Mhm.
less than that, you can still do this. And that's really encouraging to know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So are there other modes of transportation that you can take besides walking on the Camino de Santiago?
Yes, you can cycle. Cycling is very, very, very popular. And that's also a great way to do it if you're a cyclist and only have a limited amount of time. And then you can also do it by horseback. I actually met a woman on my Camino Nova Scotia who did it by horseback. And that's so cool. And those are all recognized for your Compostela. So those are some other nice ways to experience the Camino if you're into both of those.
Are most of the sections of the trail, are they paved? Is it dirt? Like what does that look like?
It's kind of a mixed bag, really. Some of the mountain routes you'll find like a kind of a paved or a gravel path. Others just
Mhm.
sort of be hoofing it through a forest. There's a bit of road walking as well. A lot of people don't like the
Mhm.
road walking. I don't mind it at all. And then some of it, you could be like crossing a little stream, so you sort of have to navigate over rocks that are in places. And some of it is just like again forest walking that can get really muddy. So you can sort of experience every type of terrain. Like coming from Vancouver, like when I go hiking here, that can be similar to a lot of parts of the Camino, like through the forests and the mountains. But you really can get all sorts of different terrain, and you just have to roll with it. And again, if you're sort of reading up on the day and you're like, I don't think I can make it through this mud or whatever, take a bus or a taxi. So there's no shame. There's no shame.
Yeah, they don't knock you for taking
Yeah, well, they do.
taking a
Well,
motorized vehicle
some do, but I say just if that's what it's going to take for you to do
to
it,
push you
just
along.
do it. Yeah.
All right, good to know. So I'm sure there's a lot of etiquette doing the Camino. What is some of the etiquette that visitors should know before they go?
I think one of the biggest controversies that a lot of people have been talking about lately is if you have to go to the bathroom in the bush, which you will very likely have to, just kind of do your best to clean up as best as you can. Like don't leave toilet paper and tissue along the trail. Like that's a big, big problem. Pick up after yourself. There's no reason to leave a plastic water bottle in the middle of the trail. So I think just like cleanliness etiquette along the trail is a really big deal. Just kindness and patience with the people that are working. They're like I said before, they're dealing with thousands of people rolling through town every day, and it's hard. So just be patient, kind. I felt like the best way to deal with the locals, just ask them something about themselves, and be polite. Yeah, in the albergues again. If you know you snore and you have something that can help with that, bring it. Clean up after yourself. Like I've been in some albergue bathrooms that are just horrific. They just clean up after yourself, and it's a shared space. So just be mindful of that. And one of the biggest things that when I was volunteering is when your hospitaler outlines the rules, obey them because the rules are rules for a reason. Like you can't stay up past 10 because lights out at 10 means lights out at 10 because people are not everybody's there to have a party with their friends, right? Like people are there for some very special reasons, and like respect the rules of the
Right.
albergue. Don't sneak out at night and then you need to come back in at 1 o'clock in the morning. You can't sleep on the couch because there's safety regulations in place. So just be really mindful about obeying the rules of the albergue and keeping a shared space
Good to
clean.
know. And what
Yeah.
about on the trail?
And on the trail, if you are cycling on the trail and you are encountering the walkers, because sometimes it's a shared path, just ring your bell or let the walkers know that you're behind them. That's a big problem to a lot of people zoom by on bikes, and I've almost been hit a couple of times. And then again, just courtesy to your fellow travelers, your fellow pilgrims.
Yeah, is there anything you say to each other like passing?
Yeah, we say buen camino. So yeah, you can say that to them while you're passing. Yeah. If somebody doesn't want to talk, you don't take it personally. Maybe they're just, dealing with something that day. And yeah, and just respect their space. And everybody helps
Yeah.
each other out. So it's stop to help somebody if they need help. You're not in a
No,
rush. So
it sounds like the whole experience really fosters a sense of community, which
it
is
does.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's really special.
So, as you reflect on your experiences, how has the Camino changed you as a traveler?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think it's changed me in a way that as I've mentioned a few times before, I can get like a little bit nervous and maybe worried about some things, it's like, as a child, it's like, it's going to be fine. It's going to work out. Just, it's fine.
Kind of teaches you to roll with the punches and just go with the
Just
flow.
roll with things a little bit more and not get so stressed out about everything while I'm traveling. And then like I'm always fairly polite when I'm traveling, but I think volunteering on the Camino just helps reinforce that. Just to put myself in the position of somebody working in a tourist service environment, like just just how to maybe relate to them a bit more and be a little bit more courteous in my traveling. Yeah, and it's just, I think when you walk across the country by yourself, you can pretty much do anything. So I think just I'm not so worried about the world. I was always a solo traveler, but I think even more so now. I'm like, just not, you don't have to always be so scared of everything in the world. It just really grew my confidence as a traveler as well.
Yeah, and I think that's huge, especially as a solo female. I think a lot of people are really nervous to take that first step. So it seems like this is like such a great confidence builder and something that can kind of spearhead all these other trips around the world.
And even, even not from a travel perspective, it really does change. It changed my life more than it changed my travel style, I think.
Yeah. So do you have any tips for someone planning their very first Camino before we wrap up this episode?
Oh my gosh. I think my biggest one would be just book that flight and just go. Be open to others. I know a lot of people I've met, from the moment I met them to the time that we ended, like I just saw such a big change in them because, maybe they'd come off, and even myself to a certain extent, come into it, be closed off, because it's kind of how we operate in the world, right? Like that's how we go through life, just be open. Don't be stupid, but just be open. Like,
don't be stupid, be open. I like it.
Don't leave your money around. Don't leave your money on your bed, but be open to people. And like, I met people who, first impression, I was like, I don't know about this one, who ended up being people who by the end were really, really special to me. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing. And then you'll often hear people just saying the Camino provides, and it's so true. Like the Camino does not provide you what you want. It provides you what you need. So that will be in a form of a person or an experience or an albergue. You will go and you will get everything that you need from it.
Yeah. And I love what you said about how sometimes you'd meet people who you weren't sure about and then they'd become special to you, because I think in most environments, when you get that first impression of someone and it's a little off, that's all you get. And maybe you'll never see him again because you're like, that's not my person. But this experience takes time. So it allows you the time to actually get to know someone, which is so special. And I think it really does. That kind of experience really does change the way you see human connections and not just judging somebody at face value. And that's huge, because I think in such a fast-paced world nowadays, that's what we all resort to doing immediately. So I think it's a really valuable lesson to learn.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, even some days I'm like, okay, center yourself like you're on the Camino.
Yeah. No, that's so great though, to have that like internal, reflection now that you've had this journey.
Because it's like while you're walking, like you just really do realize how crazy your day-to-day life is at home. Like it's just like
all the things you worry about that you don't really need to worry about.
It's true.
Yeah.
So
puts things in perspective.
It really does. And you see how little you need too. It's like just like when like a bougie experience is getting your laundry done. It's like you really don't need all the stuff that you actually have. So
yeah, you come home and become like a hardcore minimalist.
Totally. So
yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, we're at the end of the show. What, as like a parting thought, what is the main reason that you recommend someone partakes in the Camino de Santiago?
I think whether you're looking for it or not, it's going to change your life in some way. Could be small, could be big, but something will happen. It may not happen while you're walking, because I sort of expected like angels and magic while I was walking, and I didn't get that. But I think when I came home, like it completely changed my life. And I think just go and do it, and it will be, you'll become addicted for sure. One will not be your only one. You'll keep going and going and going.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to end that episode then, to just go and do it.
Buen Camino, everybody. Get out there.
Buen Camino. Well, that's a wrap on our show today. So don't forget to type in Camino in the search bar on travellemming.com to read more about Kat's experiences on the trail. She goes more in depth on her walks, and she also has a packing list like we talked about earlier, so you can check off everything before you go. You'll also see on our website that we host meetups all around the US and, of course, Vancouver, where Kat is our lovely host. So go ahead and check those out. Yeah, for sure. Check those out on our homepage to see if we're nearby. if you're near Vancouver, you can meet Kat in person.
Okay. We'd love to have you.
Absolutely. And again, if you like this episode, please like and subscribe to our channel. Give us a 5-star rating so you never miss an episode of the Travel Lemming podcast. Kat, it was so wonderful talking to you about the Camino de Santiago and your experiences there today. This has been one of my absolute favorite episodes to record. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Betty. This could have gone on for hours and hours and hours. So,
well, thank you everyone for listening. We'll see you next time on the Travel Lemming podcast.